after.
One small thing,
Yes.
small query. Uh, what I understood is program educational objective is the sole authority of the department of an institute, right, ma'am?
Yes.
And it is solely prepared by the of a department of an institute, right?
Yes.
And this program educational objective of two different departments in a particular institute may be different.
Mm.
It has to be different,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And let's say there is some other institute, so my institute, my department's program educational objective may be different and it could be same also.
Mm. Mm. It can
Let's
be
say
same
two
also. If they
institutes are
have,
located nearby,
uh,
so the program educational objective of the two departments of two different institution, it may get same.
if everything is ditto, right? All the vision, mission, everything. The see sometimes you can orient all your project work, research work, towards one thing, right? Automation. If two are doing the same thing, it can appear, but the identity of that institute will not be there. No specialized. How you can say that you are specialized in that? So in that case. You want to be different, no? You want to create a brand for your institute, no? So if it is the same institute, you can have it, right, with the same facilities, same expertise. Then why do you want it? Maybe in a different. You can have that same. Thing. Usually, it won't be there, no? It will be customized.
Yes, yes. Got. Thank you so much. Thank you. If there is any other queries, I think already ma'am has answered a lot of queries. Uh,
It's very always interesting, no, to answer the queries. And thanks for the opportunity given, and thanks for the active participation. Right?
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
We hope one day you will came to Gorakhpur for taking session physically on physical mode, ma'am.
Thanks for your invitation, sir. Hopefully. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's a privilege to have you, ma'am. Thank you much.
Actually, the questions which we has been discussed, na, normally we sit together and we discuss. But today I broke the subtle and that barrier that let us discuss it with the experts and this.
yes, yes.
It is very fruitful, sir, because we have to face NBA team very soon.
This very soon. So
So participant, we have a break for 15 minutes, and after that we have session 8 at 12 p.m. So you have a tea break for 15 minutes. You may have a tea, a online tea.
It is virtual tea. Okay.
और किसी को लेमन टी पीनी हो तो इलेक्ट्रिकल डिपार्टमेंट आ सकता है.
So ये आप ही टीचर रहे हैं?
कौन? ये नहीं,
अच्छा,
चटर्जी साहब थे हमारे।
ओके सर।
Hello. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have joined the meeting. Oh, okay.
Good morning very much, sir. Welcome to this 1
Good
week
morning, sir. Can you hear me?
examination reform, sir.
Sir, good morning, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
can hear you, sir. Your voice is coming, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So welcome to this 1 week FDP on examination reform. So I request Dr. Abdesh sir to please read a brief biography of sir.
Okay. Thank you. So welcome to this session 8, and the session will be headed by Dr. K.S. Giridharan, is already connected to us, and he'll be talking on use of Bloom's technology for designs of questions. So before I hand over this virtual dais to Sir, let me read his brief biography. Dr. K.S. Giridharan is the currently Associate Professor in the Department of Engineering Education, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chennai. He completed his Masters and PhD from University of Madras and BE from the College of Engineering, Anna University. He has over more than 20 years of experience. His prime subjects, he has taught principles of management, organizational behavior, legal aspects of HRM, entrepreneurship development. He has more than 25 publications. He has more than 21 vocational educational training, etc. He has 2 patents to his credit. He is currently the member of professional bodies such as AICTE, Institution of Engineers. He has 4 research and consultancy projects also, and he has conducted various training programs, nearly 85 in the various engineering colleges, and also the 4 training program he has conducted overseas, 12 workshops sponsored by MHRD, 7 seminars again sponsored by MHRD, and 1 international conference has been organized by Sir. His main areas of interest are online teaching and assessment, instructional strategies, outcome-based education and outcome-based assessment, accreditation, e-content design and development, academic audit, question paper, authoring and evaluation, intellectual property rights, and etc. He has guided more than 16 overseas participants as well. This is just a brief summary of to his introduction. So with this, I again welcome Dr. K.S. Giridharan sir and hand over this virtual dais. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. I hope I am audible. Am I audible, yes, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Your voice is perfectly audible.
Okay, sir. So, friends, I take this opportunity to thank the benign authorities of MM University, Gorakhpur, for giving me an opportunity to deliver a lecture on one of my favorite topics, that is Bloom's taxonomy, usage of Bloom's taxonomy for framing questions. So whatever points that we'll be discussing for the next 1.5 hours or so, it may not be new to us because many of you should be knowing the various components or the various levels of Bloom's taxonomy. But however, the lecture will be taken in such a way that we will see how the components of Bloom's taxonomy can be applied with respect to the engineering discipline scenario. So there's a brief introduction about my topic. So let me share my screen, and I hope you should be able to see my screen in a while. Okay, so I think the participants, can you see my whiteboard screen, Microsoft whiteboard screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us see there. Let me type the title like Bloom's taxonomy. Kindly bear with my spelling mistakes. Bloom's taxonomy or designing questions. For designing questions. This is the topic for today's session, and what are all the important or the vital points that will be discussed. So the first and the foremost thing is we'll be looking in detail like what is the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So I hope many of you should be conversant with the terms used with the revised Bloom's taxonomy, because it starts with the remember level and it goes up to create level. So we will look at the various levels, I mean, in detail, and we will see that how these levels can be used by a teacher, by an engineering teacher or a mathematics teacher for effectively framing questions, which in other words can be used for the assessment and the evaluation scenario. That is number one. Second one is, after discussing this revised Bloom's taxonomy, we will look at the different types of questions. Okay, so you do have different types of questions. We call some questions as lower order thinking questions, and some questions are also categorized as higher order thinking questions. And we will see which level of Bloom's taxonomy is going up to which level, lower order category, and from which level we will be having this higher order category, and so on. And after that, after analyzing these different types of questions, or in other words, we can also say convergent and divergent type of questions. Okay, so now the third one is, after discussing the types of questions, we need to integrate the revised Bloom's taxonomy component with that of the question scenario, and see that how the questions can be framed, an unambiguous question can be framed, and how the students' performance can be assessed, and in what way the questions are going to serve as an effective tool for measuring the benchmark performance that we have already envisaged. So we will see the question framing component. So how the questions are being framed, using Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so these are the three important topics, or the subtopics, I would rather say, will be discussed in detail for the next 90 minutes or so. So let us go on to the first one. So the first one is, we need to look in detail what is the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So this is revised Bloom's taxonomy, and we need to differentiate how this revised Bloom's taxonomy is different from the older version of Bloom's taxonomy. And many of you might be feeling in what way this Bloom's taxonomy is going to help an engineering college teacher or an university which is mostly technical in nature. Okay, so the revised Bloom's taxonomy will be discussed. Okay, one second. Taxonomy. Okay. So friends, as we all know that the revised Bloom's taxonomy or the older version of Bloom's taxonomy are always used when we frame an objective. Okay, so when we frame an objective, we normally go in for this revised Bloom's taxonomy. And I hope the earlier speakers should have also given some brief idea about what is an objective and what is an outcome. And I would rather say like how this objective and outcome are different from each other. Are they same or are they different? So I'm not sure, because I'm so conversant with Zoom and Google Meet, but I do not know how am I going to communicate with these people. Right, so these are the people. do I pose questions here? Okay, I will just ask you the question here itself. Okay, so we need to know what is an objective. We need to know what is an objective and what is an outcome. Because we are all living in an outcome-based education era, and I hope many of the engineering institutions, many of the technical institutions in and around the country are going beyond the National Board of Accreditation component, because they personally feel that when you implement these outcome-based education strategies in your classroom, that particular institution can be accredited by the NBA authorities. But what do you mean by this outcome-based education classroom? And in what way this outcome-based education is quite different from objective-based education? Because these are the two things we need to differentiate clearly. And after this differentiation, we will come to know what is objective-based education and what is outcome-based education. And you will also have a feel like when outcome-based education is being practiced, what is the use of objective-based education? Because we know that outcome-based education is implemented in the country since 2014 onwards, and we need to cross-check whether this objective-based education is really required in the present scenario or not. If at all it is required, where this objective-based education is going to help the teaching community or it is going to help the student community. That is what we are going to look at here. Okay, now let me move on to the first one. When you look at this outcome-based education, so we know that what is outcome-based education is, but in a nutshell, if I want to differentiate this outcome-based education and okay, so let me say this is OB, objective-based education. Okay, this is outcome-based education and this is objective-based education. So what do you mean by outcome-based education and what do you mean by objective-based education? When you compare these two things, you will know there is a small difference between this objective-based education and outcome-based education. What is the main difference here? The main difference between objective-based education and outcome-based education is, in the case of objective-based education, the time factor is very rigid here. Okay, the time factor is rigid. So you know, like many of the times, the diploma programs are to be completed within 3 years. When a student is not completing the diploma program within 3 years, he or she, whatever mark they score, let us say they have scored more than 85%, when they complete the diploma program after 4 years, or when they complete the BE program, after 5 years, they may not be given that distinction component. For a simple reason, they have not completed the degree on time. This is the scenario happening in Tamil Nadu, but right now that scenario is getting relaxed to a greater extent because of the implementation of this outcome-based education. Where in the case of outcome-based education, the same time factor is getting relaxed here. Okay, the same time factor is getting relaxed here. So why do you relax this time factor? For a simple reason. In the case of outcome-based education, the teacher feels or the educationist feel that every student has got their own learning capability, and every student has got their own learning differences. So therefore, you cannot expect all the students to reach the goal post on the same day. Whereas in the case of objective-based education, it was expecting all the students to reach the goal post on the same day, but that is not taken into consideration in the case of outcome-based education. So this is the first difference between this objective-based education and outcome-based education. Okay, right. Second one is, in the case of objective-based education and outcome-based education, another one major difference here is the objective-based education was predominantly focusing on content. Okay, we are predominantly focusing on content. So whatever content that I discuss, let us say basically I'm an electrical person. So when I want to deal with the different theorems or different laws available under this discipline, so I will be restricting to the laws, and I will be discussing those laws in detail. I will be deriving the laws in the classroom, and I also ensure that the students are also masters of this derivation, and I also ensure that the students are using these formula, the students are using these theorems and solving the problems available at the back of the book. So mostly when I follow this outcome based education, my focus of discussion will be towards the content here. But on the other hand, in the case of outcome based education, the focus of discussion will not be towards content, but it will be moving beyond the content, or in a nutshell, we can say it is going towards the context component. So your outcome based education focuses on the context, and your objective based education focuses on the content. So these are the differences between the objective based education and outcome based education. The major differences, I would rather say. So you do have a content based education system, and you also have a context based education system. So right now the Indian government is emphasizing on outcome based education, which indicates that all students are to focus on the context based education scenario. Okay, so we need to focus on the context. So when I want to deal with the context, obviously I cannot forego the content. So without mastering the content, or without understanding the content properly, the student may not be in a position to apply the content in real-time scenarios, because your context is nothing but the application of content in real-time scenarios, how the content is getting applied. So that also plays a vital role. So for mastering the content, we make use of this objective-based education system. So we need to keep this thing in mind. Your objective-based education system is going to help a teacher to master the content. Whereas in the case of outcome-based education system, it ensures that the students are not bookworms, but the students are made to apply the content in the real-time scenario. Or in a nutshell, we can always say the outcome-based education is nothing but the benefit that the student is going to get. Okay, the benefit that the student is going to get because of the degree that he has got. Okay, because of the degree that he has got. So say for example, in the pandemic scenario, we came across so many people, we came across so many graduates, and many of the times the graduates were deployed with the state government for taking the statistics. Many of the times the graduates were engaged by the delivering agencies like Swiggy, Zomato, and other agencies for delivering the food items and for delivering the groceries and other kind of items. Virendra Singh, can you please mute yourself, sir? Dr. Virendra Singh. Yes. Thank you. So we could see that many graduates were engaged by the Swiggy and other delivering agencies for delivery of the grocery, food items, and other things. But if you look at, I happen to interact with a few of the graduates who are delivering items to my neighbors, and I also happen to interact with a few of the Ola Uber drivers. We were shocked to hear that these people were mostly technically qualified people. So in other words, most of the people with whom I had interaction, they were all qualified engineers, but due to some reasons, they were unable to get a job in the engineering discipline, and therefore, for their daily survival, they have registered themselves with Ola, and they are acting as drivers, and they have also registered themselves with the Swiggy and Zomato agencies for, and they are acting as the delivery boys. So that is the scenario. That is the present scenario, which is a strongly objectionable one, because our students, our engineering students, or be it any science graduate or an arts graduate, when they get a degree, somehow or other, there should be some kind of benefit that they should be getting from the degree. Unfortunately, the education system has been has been allowing those students to get the degree, but it is not allowing them to get a job in the job market related to that degree. So that is the pathetic scenario. So how do you overcome this pathetic scenario, and what is the root cause of these kind of problems? Whether the students are to be blamed, or the system has to be blamed, or the teachers are to be blamed, or the education system or the evaluation pattern has to be blamed. So when you look at that one at large, we need to have a total revamp of this education system. So when the education system is getting revamped, where in those days when we studied, most of the questions were asked from the book, and most of the examination things were happening in and around the book only. So therefore, the students have become masters of the book, but they do not know how the content has to be applied in real-time scenario. In the job market, they are also expecting people with the proper skill set, but unfortunately, the education system has not been preparing these people in the proper skill set manner. So it was mainly producing graduates who can answer the textbook knowledge, the textbook problems with accuracy, and not the real-time problems or unknown problems. Okay, unknown problems. So keeping that in mind only, we have switched over to this outcome-based education, and I hope many of you should be knowing the genesis or the reason behind the implementation of this outcome-based education. So whatever I have discussed, it is only an eye-opener. Like you, it will make you feel that the importance of outcome-based education system. Okay, now we know that when outcome-based education system is being practiced, now why this present topic is to be handled, and how this present topic is going to serve the purpose for achieving this outcome-based education. First and the foremost thing is, we all know that for an outcome-based education system to be adopted, the student should be masters in the content. Okay, the student has to have a thorough knowledge in the content. Without having a thorough knowledge in the content, the students will not be able to carry out a project, will not be able to execute a project, or will not be able to head a project, or will not be able to fulfill a task assigned to him, because the present job market trend is changing. The companies are no more looking for graduates, but they rather look for people with appropriate skill sets. And I am given to understand that many of the corporates like Google and Tesla and Amazon and other company, they were all looking for people with the proper skill sets. And even if you do not have a degree, they are willing to recruit a person who is having that appropriate or relevant skill set. So we need to mentally prepare our students, or we need to equip our students with the proper skill set, so that they will be able to get a job. For making the students acquire the skill set, the first and the foremost thing is they should be having a thorough knowledge in the content. And for making the students become master in the content, we make use of objective-based education. And this objective-based education, as I told you, it is mostly focusing on time domain. So in your 45 hours of lecture, so probably we will be focusing 15 hours or 20 hours or 15 hours, a maximum one third of the hour, one third of the content handling duration will be spent towards the objective-based education system, and the remaining 30 hours, two-thirds of the content handling duration will be focused towards this outcome-based education. So for a student to become master in the content, we need to have some time frame, and keeping that time frame in mind, we will be going in for this objective-based education. So once when I adopt this objective-based education, we need to go in for this Bloom's taxonomy. So that is how the Bloom's taxonomy comes into picture. So when I look at this objective, okay, when I look at this objective, and when you carefully analyze this objective, it is said that the objective is a combination of two components. One is your work, the other one is your noun. Okay, the one is your work, the other one is your noun. You look at any objective. when you look at any objective, say for example, let me have an example here. The example says at the end of the session, okay, at the end of the session, the students will be able to solve a problem using Ohm's law. Okay. For the end of the session, so this is the objective here. The student will be able to. So this is a common statement in any objective. The crux, the core objective is solve a problem using Ohm's law. When you look at this entire objective, this is the main objective here. Okay, so this is the objective, and let me highlight this objective. Okay, this is the objective. This is my objective. Okay. So when I look at this objective, what really happens here? When I carefully analyze this objective, okay, I go for an analysis, and I need to know what is happening in that objective. The objective clearly indicates, okay, the objective indicates that the objective is made up of, the core objective is made up of two components. One is your verb and the other one is your noun. That we already know it. So what is the verb focus here? Okay, what is the usage of this verb? The verb in any objective will focus on, okay, the verb in any objective will focus on the performance component of the student. It wants the students to perform certain thing. In other words, it focuses on the student performance. So the verb indicates the student performance. The verb indicates the student performance. So there is a student. You have a student or the learner performance. Or in other words, you can also say that it is not student oriented, and rather I would rather say that it is mostly learner oriented. So you can always say that the verb is focusing on the learner performance also. So I want the students to solve. Okay, I want the students to solve. So that is the verb component of this objective. And what is the noun component? So the noun component of this objective, it focuses on, okay, it focuses on the knowledge component. Okay, it focuses on the knowledge component. So what kind of knowledge you are going to teach the student, or what kind of knowledge you are going to impart to the student community. So that will be emphasized, or that will be discussed at length in the classroom. So solve a problem using Ohm's law. So this could be my objective. Okay, this is my objective here. So the same thing can also be used as an outcome here. Okay, the same thing can also be used as an outcome here. So solve problem. Okay, solve problem using Ohm's law. And you might be asking, like, how the same statement can be used as an objective as well as an outcome here. The first and the foremost thing is, when I look at this statement as an objective statement, the knowledge that will be shared to the teacher, that will be shared to the student, will be mostly related to the content. Will be most related to the content specific knowledge, or the knowledge that is related to the content. Same thing here. In the case of an outcome, the verb focuses on learner performance, but when I carefully analyze this knowledge, the knowledge will not be focusing on the content part, but rather the knowledge will be focusing on the context part. So the problem given to the student community, okay, the problem given to the student community might be a real-time problem. Okay, might be a real-time problem. Whereas the problem given to a student community in the first scenario might be a textbook problem. Okay, might be a textbook problem. Like, say for example, your house wiring connections. Okay, your house wiring connections. When you look at your house wiring connections. Okay, complex house wiring connections. Okay, you can Google it and you will come to know there are so many pictures available. There are so many pictures available, and you can take any one of the complex house wiring diagram, and you see that I want to identify, okay, I want to find out what is the current flow in a particular circuit. Okay, so this is the house plan, and inside this house plan, I have this kind of fans and other things. So I am just having a look at this house wiring, and I want to identify what could be the kind of current flow here, and in which phase I should be connecting the AC, or in which phase I should be connecting the geyser, and so on. Because I cannot overload a particular phase, and whereas in the other phase there cannot be a very minimal load. So therefore, I will be equally distributing the load in all the cases. So when I look at this one, in the case of an outcome, we need to focus on a context-based problem, whereas in the case of a objective, we will be focusing on the content-based problem. Okay, so this is the first thing. Second one is when you look at this one. Okay, when you look at this one, in the textbook-based problems, the students are getting some knowledge here. That is number one. Second one is the teacher will also come to know. Okay, the teacher will also come to know, like what could be the answer for that one. Okay, what could be the answer for that one. And second one is the teacher, by virtue of their experience, will come to know in what areas that students will be making mistakes. Okay, what areas the students will be making mistakes. Sometimes the students will be taking the values, incorrect values. Sometimes the students will be taking some assumptions which may not work out there. So that kind of problems will be there, and the teacher will be able to look at the solving, and they will be able to say, here is where the mistake has been made. So in that way, the competence of the student is getting developed. Okay, in that way, the competence of the student is getting developed. So through objectives, you are developing the competence. Through objectives, you are making the students to become proficient in the content matter. Through objectives, you are also ensuring that the students are really becoming masters in the content area. And once you feel that the students have become real masters in the content, then only we have to go for this level. So till that time, we will be using these objectives. Okay, now when I am using this objective, okay, now let us say that I am going to use this objective. And when I use this objective, I need to categorize this objective. So categorization of this objective, or in other words, we can say the levels of objectives. Okay, what is the type of level that we need to focus? For fixing the levels of objective, we will be invoking the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So the revised Bloom's taxonomy, if you look at the revised Bloom's taxonomy, literature says revised Bloom's taxonomy is more or less different from the older version of Bloom's taxonomy. What is the difference here? The major difference between the older version of Bloom's taxonomy and the revised version of Bloom's taxonomy is your RBT, your revised version of Bloom's taxonomy is a two-dimensional one. Okay, it is a two-dimensional one. Whereas the older version of Bloom's taxonomy is a single-dimensional one. Okay, whereas the older version of Bloom's taxonomy, it is a single-dimensional one. Okay. So what is a two-dimensional taxonomy and what is a single-dimensional taxonomy? And what are all the two dimensions here? The earlier version, the Bloom's taxonomy, was focusing, the older version of Bloom's taxonomy was focusing mostly on the cognitive domain. Okay, was mostly focusing on the cognitive domain. And how this revised version of Bloom's taxonomy is different from the older version. So it also focuses on cognitive domain. Okay, it also focuses on cognitive domain, but this thing is quite different from the older one, because it also focuses on the other dimension, and that dimension is called as the knowledge dimension. So there are two dimensions here. Okay, there are two dimensions here. One is your cognitive dimension, and the other one is knowledge dimension. Okay, and the one is the cognitive dimension, and the other one is knowledge dimension. So we are going to see this in detail, and you will come to know where exactly this cognitive dimension is being used, and what is the role of this knowledge dimension in our classroom scenario. So that is what we are going to discuss for the next few minutes. Okay, now let me take the first one. Okay, let us take the first one, the revised Bloom's taxonomy. What is the cognitive dimension here? Okay, what kind of dimensions, or what do you mean by cognitive dimension? So this is a very prominent dimension, and I hope many of you should be knowing what is a cognitive dimension. So there are around 6 levels here, and most of you should be knowing what are all the different levels. So the basic level is your remember level. Okay, the basic level is your remember level. Okay, the basic level is your remember level. The next level is your understand level. The third level is your apply level. The fourth level is your analyze level. Fourth level is your analyze level. The fifth level is your evaluate level, and the last level is your create level. Okay, it is your evaluate level, and the last level is your create level. Okay, the last level is your create level. The revised Bloom's taxonomy, the cognitive dimension, there are 6 levels. The basic level starts with remember level, and it goes up to create level. Okay, it starts with the remember level, and it goes up to create level. This many of you should be knowing, and sometimes some institutes are stating this one as K1, K2, K3, and so on. Okay. Now, what is the other level? What is the other dimension focus? The other dimension focuses on the knowledge dimension. The other dimension is your knowledge dimension. So what is your knowledge dimension? So once again, there are few levels here. One is the basic one is called as your factual knowledge. Okay, the basic one is called as your factual knowledge. The second one is called as your conceptual knowledge. The second one is your conceptual knowledge. The third one is your procedural knowledge. The third one is your procedural knowledge. And the last one is your metacognitive knowledge. Okay, and the last one is your metacognitive knowledge. So these are the different levels under this knowledge dimension. So I'm not sure like how many of you are framing an objective and fixing the levels as per this statement. Now, if you recall our previous one. Okay, you recall our previous example, that is solve problem. Okay, solve problem using Ohm's law. Okay, using Ohm's law. This is my example. When you look at this example, I need to categorize this example. So what I am going to do, I am going to fix the level here. So when I fix the level here, on seeing the word verb, I feel that most of the times it comes under apply level. So therefore, with respect to the performance component, it is apply level. Okay, it is apply level. And when I look at the knowledge dimension, so that I have a problem here, and that problem has to be solved using Ohm's law. So when I use Ohm's law, I do have a set of procedures here. So therefore, I can say this objective is a combination of apply level of cognitive dimension and the procedural knowledge level of this knowledge dimension. Okay, procedural level of this knowledge dimension category. So when we look at this objective, it gives you a crystal clear feeling that you are going to deal with procedural knowledge, and you need to ensure that how the procedural knowledge is getting applied. Okay, how the procedural knowledge is getting applied. So you will be getting a clear-cut instruction, or a teacher will be getting a clue or an idea at this stage to design what kind of teaching methodologies, or to design what kind of instructional aid the teacher has to use in the classroom for an effective classroom management and for effective classroom teaching learning process. So when I look at this one, this is how you categorize this objective. So when I am focusing on this cognitive dimension and knowledge dimension, I need to have a better understanding of what exactly is cognitive dimension and what do you mean by this knowledge dimension. Okay, what do you mean by this knowledge dimension? So let us take the first one, that is your cognitive dimension. The cognitive dimension, many of you should be knowing. The cognitive dimension focuses on which category? The cognitive dimension focuses on the performance category. So when I look at the basic level of performance, it is your remember level. Okay, it is your remember level. So what does this remember level indicate? The remember level indicates that the learner has to remember certain things. So that remembrance can happen after understanding things. That remembrance can happen after applying things. And that remembrance can also happen after creating things and so on. So when I look at the first one, okay, this remember level, most of the times it is the basic level of this cognitive dimension, and most of the times we often remember many things. Okay, we often remember many things. So say for example, okay, when you look at we ask a simple question. Okay, we want to know what is the value of pi. Okay, what is the value of pi in a particular class? And we didn't ask the students to give an answer just like that, but we wanted the students to give an answer up to 4 decimal places. Okay, up to 4 decimal places. Okay, up to 4 decimal places. Okay, now, and at the same time, we also wanted to know the students that we make use of 22/7 for doing the pi related calculation, and we also wanted to know the value of pi and 22/7, are they same or not? Okay, are they same or not? Some students said yes, some students said no. But we wanted to know what is the students' mindset, and what the students are doing. Okay, what the students are doing in the class. Okay, right. Now, first one is we looked at the value of pi value. Okay, we looked at the value of pi. So the value of pi, when you look at the images, what is the value of pi? It is 3.141592 and so on. So let us say, for time being, let us say, okay, let us say the value of pi is 3.1415. Now, what is the value of 22/7? Okay, what is the value of 22/7 here? So when I look at, we go for a calculator, and let me open this calculator app. So I just wanted to know what is the value of 22/7. It is 3.1428, and it is 3.1428. So there is a lot of difference. Okay, there is a difference between the pi value, and there is a difference between the pi value, and there is a difference between this 22/7 value and this 22/7 value. So when we told the student that the 22/7 value is used for calculation for taking values up to 2 decimal places, because only this 22/7 value, it is used for doing calculation when we keep the value of pi as, approximate the value of pi as 3.14. But when we go for these 4 decimal places, the 22/7 value and the actual pi value is entirely different. So when we shared this basic example, many of the students, to be very candid, in that particular institution, they were of the feel that the pi value and 22/7 are more or less the same. But it is same only for the first 2 decimal places, and beyond the 3rd decimal place, it is not the same. Okay, there is a difference of almost around 0.0013. So this is what is called remembrance level. Okay, so when I share this example, you will come to know like what is the value of 22/7, and when you look at the value of pi, you will also come to know what is the value of this pi here. Okay, now let us go for the second one. What is the second one? The understand level. So remembering is, you are going to remember certain facts, you are going to remember certain values. So you will be remembering your birthdays, your anniversaries, your friends' birthdays, their anniversaries, and so on. But on the other hand, when I want to understand, okay, when I want to understand, when I want to go beyond this remember level, I have to focus on this understand level. Okay, I have to focus on the understand level. So what does this understand level indicate? Okay, what does this understand level indicate? The understand level indicates, okay, the understand level indicates that that for the values that we are getting remembered, or for certain things that we get remembered, that we remember, we are supposed to give some kind of explanations or justifications. So some kind of explanation is required, or some kind of justification is required. So just like that, why when we ask the students, yes, Dr. David Alam, okay, when we ask the students, like, why is this difference? Why 22 by 7 is not the same as pi? Okay, what is the difference here? Many of the students were unable to give an answer. And probably I throw this question to this audience, and you can also work on it, and you can also let us know, like, what is this, why is this difference, and why pi value and 22 by 7 is not different, and why pi value and 22 by 7 is not different, is quite different from each other, and why that difference lies, and what is the reason for this difference. So when you are able to give a justification, when you are able to give an explanation for this difference, and if that explanation or if that justification is logically acceptable, and if this justification is logically correct, then we can always come to a conclusion that the student or the learner has understood the content properly. The student or the learner has understood the content properly. So that is the second level of this cognitive dimension. So your understanding is not just like that. It is expecting the learner to give a sort of explanation, to give a sort of justification, to give a sort of differentiation, why this difference occurs and what could be the root cause of this difference. All these things, when they are able to say, we can always say that the student has understood the content. Okay, we can always say that the students have understood the content. Okay, that is number one. Now let me give you another one example. So before starting this example, and the students were unable to give an example, they were unable to give a justification here. Now we also asked another set of students, like, many of the students should be watching Hollywood movies. Okay, so you should have also watched Hollywood movies. We asked the students. I do not know how I am going to interact here, because chat and channel meeting is only available to team members. So I am unable to interact with these people. So I would rather appreciate if I am given a chance of interaction here. Okay, no problem. So here, when we ask the students, okay, when we ask the students, what is the number given for James Bond? So when we asked an example from a movie, everybody was thrilled and everybody was very happy. And immediately, the students gave an answer. It is 007. Okay, it is 007. So what is this level? It comes under what level? It comes under remember level. So 007 is the number that is given for James Bond. When you give that answer, from where it comes from your memory. It comes from your memory. Now, the second question here is, we ask a set of students the same question, why 007? Why this number has been given to James Bond? Because there are so many numbers, infinite numbers. James Bond could have been given some other number, but why is it he is given 007? Some students said the 7 looks like a pistol, the 7 looks like a gun, so therefore they should have gone for it. And some students said that no, the other numbers, maybe other people are occupying other numbers, so therefore James Bond is given this number. because if you see this James Bond movie, they will always say it is 007 and 006 and 005 conversation also come out there. And James Bond happened to be the seventh employee of the intelligence agency, and he should have joined there as a seventh employee. Hence, that number 007 should have been given to him. So, like that kind of justification, we should have given. They were giving. But when we checked, okay, when we wanted the students to go beyond these kind of explanations, and we wanted the students to go and find the reason from the internet sources, and we also wanted to learn from them. We wanted to know whether the students are good in uh, finding the authentic source from the internet and give the proper justification. One student was able to come out with the proper justification, and he said that right now the James Bond movies, the present James Bond movies, they where James Bond will be carrying out spying activities. Okay, James Bond will be carrying out spying activities where mostly in different parts of the country, different parts of the globe. The present James Bond movie, he will be spying on individuals located in North America, or he will be traveling down to Europe, or he will also be traveling down to India, and sometimes he will also be traveling down to South America or Russia and North Korea. So many places he will be traveling for carrying out the spying activities. Okay. But when Ian Fleming created, okay, the creator of this James Bond character is Ian Fleming, and when he created this James Bond character, the character was created during this Cold War period. So we all know that the Cold War was between the Russian and other US allies. So James Bond happened to be the ally, okay, the US ally. He is a British agent, and he was working for the British Secret Services. He will be carrying out the spying activities mostly in Russia, okay, mostly in the then USSR, okay, then USSR or the current Russia. Okay, it's a communist country. Or they will be carrying out activities in the North Korea. But if you look at the old James Bond movie, where the James Bond character was portrayed by Roger Moore and Sean Connery and other people, the James Bond character will be carrying out. There are so many movies like From Russia with Love, and so many movies are there. So all these characters will be spying the activities of Russia. So when I look at Russia and in what way this number 7 and Russia are getting connected, you look at the IST code of Russia. Okay, Russia IST code. So when you look at the Russian IST code, I hope you can see my screen. The IST code of Russia is 7. So keeping that in mind only, that number 7 has been given by Ian Fleming for the James Bond character. So this explanation comes under which category? This explanation comes under understand category. So similarly, and I hope many people might be accepting, or many people may not be accepting the explanation given by that student. But I personally felt that the explanation given by the student was somehow or other a logically convincing explanation. So therefore, we can also accept it. And if you find fault with that explanation, you need to give a sort of justification that this number 7 alone is not associated with Russia, but this number 7 is also associated with different parts of the country, with some other parts. Or otherwise, this number 7 indicates that James Bond is not taking any leave. He works all the 7 days in a week. So therefore, this number 7 is given to him. Okay, this number 7 can also be said that James Bond is like a rainbow. Okay, so will be garnering the attention of everybody. So rainbow has got 7 colors. So therefore, this 7 colors and 7 are matching, and therefore rainbow and James Bond is given this number 7. So any explanation you can give, but whatever explanation that you are giving, or whatever explanation that the learner is giving, or whatever explanation that the student is giving, it should be a logically acceptable explanation, or it should be a logically convincing explanation, or it should be a logically convincing explanation. So this is what is called as your understand level. This is what is called as your understand level. Okay, now let me ask from textbook. So okay, we went to the textbook scenario, and I, being an electrical engineer, I asked the students, what is the symbol for current? Okay, what is the symbol? What is the symbol used for current? Okay, what is the alphabet used for current? Okay, symbol or which is used to note for notating for denoting current. Okay, the alphabetic symbol. All students said it is I. Okay, I was also very happy, because every student was able to give. There was not even a single mistake, and every student said that the current is represented by the symbol I. Now we asked a question like, when voltage is represented by V, we know that voltage is represented by V, and the resistance is represented by what? The resistance is represented by, okay, the resistance is represented by, okay, the resistance is represented by R. Okay, if that being the case, current should be represented by C only, but it is not represented by C, but it is represented by I. Okay, it is represented by I. When we asked this question, no student was able to give the correct answer. Okay, no student was able to give the correct answer. The students were seeing each other, and for the first time, we are not facing that kind of students, because many of the students, they do not know the genesis or the reason behind the alphabets that has been used against the specific physical components. Sorry. So it is talking about current. Okay. Some students said no, this is capacitance is there. Okay, so we have this capacitance, and the capacitance has got a value. Okay, the capacitance is given C. Capacitance is the capacitance is given C. Sorry, capacitance is given C. Capacitance is given C as a thing. So therefore, current cannot be given C. So hence, I is given by this. And we also asked them, like, there are so many alphabets. There are 26 alphabets. So ignore this B, R, and C. Current A is there. You can also use A, because amperes is the unit for current. Why not they are not using amperes? A is the symbol here. Why not they are not using B? Or why they cannot use E? Or why they cannot use D, H, O, anything? Okay, anything why they can use it, but why specifically this I was used here? Okay, why specifically this I was used here? So many students were unable to give the answer here, and after that we gave the answer that the current. Okay, the current. This question we asked here because we were asked the same question in our campus interview by Siemens people. Okay, when Siemens came for campus interview, they asked this question, and unfortunately, the students who all attended the campus interview, including myself, nobody was getting the correct answer, because we didn't know, and we didn't have the mindset to question our teacher, or we do not know whether the teacher might have shared it, but we do not know whether it has not been taken due note by us or not. So we had our own thing, and we also said the same thing which the students were saying, capacitance C. So therefore current should be given as I. Okay, therefore current should be given as I. And the correct answer is, it is said that when I am talking about current, I talk about the current intensity. Okay, I talk about the current intensity. When I'm talking of this intensity, I go for this I. Okay, I go for this I. Similarly, when I go for this inductance, we ask the students, why do you go in for this inductance? Inductance should be given I, but inductance is given as L. What is the reason behind it? Now the students were able to get a clue that there should be some reason behind it. And some students said that it is something connected with the Lenz law. So therefore, Lenz has made immense contribution with respect to this electromagnetism component, and hence they were this L should be given in memory of Dr. Lenz, or the scientist Lenz, who has made immense contribution in this in the scientific domain. Okay. So for each and everything, we need to find out a justification, or we need to give an explanation, a logically convincing explanation. So then only the students will have a thorough understanding. Then only the students will be knowing why this notation is used and why not this notation. So to understand that one, we go in for this understand level. Okay, this is your understand level. The third one is we have this apply level. Okay, we have this apply level. So what do you mean by this apply level? So apply level is you learn a content. Okay, the content has been taught by the teacher. Now the content is to be discussed. The content is to be applied. The content has to be used somewhere else. Okay, why the content has to be used somewhere else? Because engineering is always applied science. Okay, the engineering is always applied component. So whatever things that we are discussing, we are not worried about the theoretical component, but we are more worried about the content which can be applied, and it is mostly towards the experimentation scenario, and we go in for this apply level. So okay, when I go for this apply level, why this apply level comes into picture? Because then from here onwards only the students will be able to apply the contents that has been learned, or in other words, we can say that the context finds a place here. Okay, the context also finds a place here. The context application finds a place here. So you learn something, and you want to see that how the learned thing is going to be helpful in your real-time scenario, or in your um, workplace scenario, or in the projects that you are going to work, where it is going to help. So in that way we are going to teach. So that is why your apply level comes here. So this apply level, when I look at this apply level, it is slightly higher than the understand level, and just like that we cannot expect a student to give an answer here, because this apply level, it is at a slightly higher level than the understand level. Okay, slightly higher level than the understand level. Okay, right. Say for example, we asked a question. Okay, we asked a question, what are the different colors of light? Okay, what are the the different colors? Okay, the different colors of traffic light. Okay, of traffic light. Okay, so many of you should be knowing different colors of, or I didn't say it is not different colors. Let me ask this question. Color of what is the color of education institution bus? Okay, your institution should also be having a vehicle. Okay, education institution vehicle, which is used for transporting students. Education institution vehicle. Education institution vehicle. Okay, education institution vehicle. What is the color of education institution vehicle? So when I say college bus India, okay, India, okay, college bus India. When you look at these images, you see most of the school buses and college buses are almost painted in what color? Mostly painted in yellow color, or a combination of yellow or orange or whatever it is. So something related with yellow color. Something related with yellow color. Now once again the question starts. Okay, once again the question starts. What is this question? The question starts. The question says, why yellow color is used for college vehicles. Yellow color is used for college vehicles. What is the reason for why yellow color is used for college vehicles? So you need to know how this yellow color, why this yellow color is used, and what is the why the government has taken different colors. Once again, there are so many colors, but in spite of that, why yellow color has been chosen?
Not audible, sir.
Madam, I am in a phone call from my office. Kindly.
Okay, okay.
So sorry, friends, there was a call from my office, and so now let us continue our discussion. So what is that we have discussed? We have been discussing like why yellow color is used for college vehicles. So this was the question. There are so many colors available. So you have variety of colors. You have magenta, you have green, you have blue. You have so many colors, red. So many colors are there. But why is that this yellow color is used for college vehicles? And what is so specific in it? And so now I am talking about a college vehicle in India. Let me say I am going for okay. Now we can always say that law of land and law of time. So Indian government has taken a decision that college buses should be painted in yellow. Then let me see the college bus in Canada. So if you look at the school bus or the institution buses in Canada and USA, those are also painted in yellow color. Okay, those are also painted in yellow color. Okay, and you go to wherever place, whichever place. When you look at from the east, okay, let us say the college bus in Singapore. Okay, so they have okay, now that you see the Singapore bus, that is also painted in yellow color. Okay, that is also painted in yellow color. So why do you have a uniform color? Why most of the countries? Why is it? Because every country, every state has got its own retirement age, and every country has got their own law. But what makes every country to adopt the same color in the education institution buses as far as it is concerned? Okay, there could be some education institution buses you see it is green in color. I do not know from which country it is, but most of the education institution buses are painted in yellow color. Most of the education institution buses are painted in yellow color, starting from the east. And if you go to any country, you know, many of the United States countries, you go to UAE. Okay, let us see what is the color of college buses in UAE. So that's also yellow in color. So that is also yellow in color. So if you go to Gulf, If you look at any country, if you look at Russia, they are all painted in yellow color. They are all painted in yellow color. So what is the reason? So this is also Russian buses are also painted in yellow color. What is the reason here? So this reason, it is nothing but an application of some other thing here, and that is why most of the governments, they are for this yellow color, and they have not adapted a different color here. Similarly, the brake lights, the brake lights of any vehicle, the brake lights of vehicles manufactured across the globe, any vehicles, be it a sports vehicle, be it a two-wheeler, be it a four-wheeler, be it a six-wheeler, be it a multi-axle vehicle, or be it a bus, or be it a lorry, anything if you take, the brake lights of vehicles are always red in color. The brake lights of vehicles are always red in color. The indicators of this vehicle, the indicators of the vehicle are always which in color, always what color? They are always in orange color or this color, or they are always in orange color. They are always in orange color or a combination of orange or yellow color. But when you look at, these colors, these are all standard colors. These are all standard colors. And why do they use these standard colors? And why do they use this standard color? And what is the scientific reason behind it? When you look at the scientific reason, the reason is very simple. The reason is very simple. It talks about the wavelength. It is about the wavelength component. So in all the cases, the wavelength is the prominent factor. Your red color is having the maximum wavelength, and your violet color has the minimal wavelength, and followed by red color, you have this yellow color or orange color, which is having the maximum wavelength. So the yellow color or the orange color vehicles that is used for this wavelength component, it is the wavelength that has been the convincing factor, or that has been the deciding factor, because when a college bus is going on the road, or the other vehicles flying on the road should be in a position to adjust their speeds, or should be in a position to change their lanes. I'm talking about the scenario which is happening in other countries, but in our country it is quite different. Only when a college bus is going, the people will be taking that lane, or the people will be traveling the lane that the college bus is taking, or they will cross just like that they will be crossing. So, but for easy figuring, for easy identification, that the vehicle traveling before us, it is an educational institution bus. So we have this yellow color. And I hope the autos. I hope the autos in Uttar Pradesh. Autos in Uttar Pradesh. What color are they? What color are they? You see, the top is painted in yellow color. The top is painted in yellow color, or in any auto, if you take, some kind of yellow thing should be there. Some kind of yellow thing should be there. Why is that yellow color? It is because that auto is meant for hiring purpose. That auto, some yellow strip will be there, or some yellow color will be there. The other things will be black. But you look at auto in Tamil Nadu, most of the autos are in total yellow color. The autos in Tamil Nadu, it is all total yellow color. It is all total yellow color. See, all the autos in Tamil Nadu, it is all pure yellow colors. When you go to a neighboring state Kerala, they have a black and yellow color. When you go to Bengaluru, they have a green and yellow color. So many things. They have so many things. So for all these things, why this is being used? It is meant for easy identification. On seeing that yellow color, a customer can hire this vehicle for his own use. But personal autos in Tamil Nadu, or personal autos in the country, they need not paint this yellow color. The personal autos, they need not paint this yellow color. Personal autos, auto rickshaw color. Auto rickshaw color. When you look at the personal auto rickshaw color, it may not be yellow color, but it can be different colors. You see, some blue color is there, some red color is there, some fancy colors you can use it. Some fancy colors you can use it because those vehicles are not meant for hiring purpose. So when I am trying to apply the wavelength property in my engineering scenario, then it is called as apply level. Okay, then it is called as apply level. So most of the times, okay, most of the times in our classroom discussions, we will be going up to this apply level. Sometimes I can also use the same thing. Why the pi value is 3.1415 and 22 by 7 value is 3.1428? What is the reason? I am going to analyze this. I am going to analyze and figure out what makes this 0.0013 difference and what is the genesis behind it. So that one I have to do it. So only then I will be able to promote analytical thinking in my class. Okay, only then as a teacher I will be able to promote analytical thinking in my class. And after the analysis has been carried out, we'll be moving to the evaluation level. So where whatever analyzed things should be discussed by the students, should be evaluated by the student community, should be evaluated, and the feedback has to be given to the student community. So why this evaluation and feedback has to be given? Only then the student will know, are they traveling in the correct path or not? Are they traveling in the right direction or not? So that is called as your evaluation level. Okay. So in a classroom, if you take, it goes from remember level and it goes up to evaluate level. It goes up to evaluate level. And beyond the classroom, the create level takes place. The creation can also be taken in the classroom, but provided the environment and the ambience in the education institution should be so conducive for making the students to come out with their own apps, for making the students to come out with their own gadgets, for making the students to show their creative ideas, for making the students to convert their creative ideas into tangible products. So that thing has to be there. Okay, that one has to be there. So these are all coming under which level? These are all coming under which category? These are all coming under this cognitive dimension component. Okay. Now let me move on to this knowledge dimension. So what is this knowledge dimension? The knowledge dimension, if you look at this knowledge dimension, the knowledge dimension has got four things. One is your factual knowledge. Okay, one is your factual knowledge. When you look at any subject, all subjects are based on certain facts. Okay, all subjects are based on certain facts. All subjects are based on certain assumptions. Okay, all subjects are based on certain assumptions. When you feel that the assumption is wrong, when you feel that the assumption is wrong, the entire subject may not be there. Okay, the entire subject may not be there. So if you look at physics, okay, when you look at physics, you do have Newton's laws of motion, you do have Newton's laws of gravitation, and so on. When you disprove gravity, what will happen? Whatever things or whatever developments that has happened in physics, it might go waste, or it should be thrown in the dustbin. Until this time, many people are of the field, or the scientists are of the field, the light is the fastest object, or the light is the fastest thing in the earth or in the universe. But so far, no such any other thing has been found out where the speed is exceeding the speed of the light. So that has not been found out. But if some research proves that something is traveling beyond the speed of the light, okay, something is traveling beyond the speed of the light, what will happen? Okay, what will happen to physics? So that is all your factual component. So your entire subject is made up of certain facts. When you look at English, it has certain facts. Like there are only 26 alphabets. You do have verbs. When I want to describe verbs, I go for adverbs. I have nouns. When I want to describe nouns, I have to use these things. Okay, I have to use adjectives. When I want to use some prepositions, where I have to use. So certain kinds of rules, regulations, all these things are there. So that is all coming under which component? These things come under your factual knowledge component. Okay, these things come under your factual knowledge component here. The next one is your, what is the next one? The next one is your conceptual knowledge. So what is your conceptual? Yes.
75% हो जाएगा, उसके बाद सबको अलग कर देंगे.
I think please mute yourself. Please mute. Please mute yourself.
Any doubts? Any doubts, queries?
No, sir. I think somebody has unmuted himself. Continue, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, what is this conceptual knowledge? Okay. What do you mean by this conceptual knowledge? Conceptual knowledge is certain. It is all dealing with certain concepts. Like mostly, if you look at the laws. Okay. Mostly, if you look at the laws, when you look at the theorems. Okay. When you look at the theorems, they all try to establish a relationship between two parameters. They all try to establish a relationship between two values and so on, or three values. And they try to establish a meaningful relationship, and they say that the value of V by I is always a constant here, and that constant is called the R. All these things they will be. For different values of V, the proportionately, for the same value of R, the value of I is getting changed here. So mostly I get the same value here. Mostly I get the same value here. So it is all trying to deal with certain concepts. It is all trying to deal with certain concepts where I deal with certain assumptions and I try to justify the assumptions. I try to justify the things here. I try to establish relationship between two theorems. I try to establish relationship between certain things. So that is all dealing with concepts. So any subject, okay, any subject, it will be having facts, and over the facts the concepts will be built. Over the facts the concepts will be built. Okay. Now the third one is we do have procedures. The next one is your procedural knowledge. So what is your procedural knowledge? The procedural knowledge is something where after establishing the relationship, I want to see how that relationship is getting established. So for which I will be writing the procedures here. I'll be going for some derivations. In case if I am a computer science engineer, I will be drawing a flow chart, a step-by-step flow chart. In case if I am an IT engineer or a computer science person, I will be writing some codes. The codes will clearly indicate what is this code and what happens and what next is, what the next one is, what the next one is, like that. Some step-by-step procedure will happen in the conceptual, in the procedural knowledge. Okay, it is all in the procedural knowledge. And the last one is here. What is the last one? The last one is your metacognitive knowledge. So your education system should go in for or should promote this metacognitive knowledge. What is this metacognitive knowledge? In computer science, if you look at this computer science people, they always talk about metadata. Okay, we are in a data-driven world. The entire world is flooded with data. The entire world is flooded with information, and data analytics has become one of the most chosen subject by most of the people. And having completed some data analytics course, we'll be able to get a decent six-figure salary in some of the top-level corporates. So the entire world is running behind data, and when you talk about data, there is computer science they call that as metadata. Metadata is data about data. Okay, metadata is data about data, or this thing about something about. It is telling something about the other things. Okay, so some data is being held over here, so knowledge about data, something like that. So it is all talking about something which should be known to others, and it holds data about data. Where the data is getting stored, that information is getting stored here. Metacognitive is, what is this metacognitive? It is about the self-awareness of that individual, whether that person will be able to execute that task, because cognitive dimension talks about the performance. So when a task is given to you, suppose when my director is giving me a task, so I should be having a sort of self-awareness, and I should say whether I will be able to do the task on time or not. Okay, but there in management there is a saying that never fail to say yes boss. You should always say yes boss. That is another one thing. But all the things you cannot say yes boss. Sometimes you need to politely submit that you are not having sufficient expertise, but probably if you are given some time, you will be able to develop expertise, and you will be able to solve that project, or you'll be able to run that project effectively. Then it is up to the admin to decide whether to hand over the project to you or not. If they are convinced on your capabilities, then they will ask you to go for a training program, and after completing the training program, they will be giving you that project, and having gained expertise from the training program, you will be able to execute that project. You will be able to execute that project at ease, and you will be able to complete the project at on time. Okay, you will be able to complete the project on time. So your education system should create a sort of self-awareness, so that a person should be able to say that whether he is able to do this thing or not, whether he is having competency in executing that project or not. To that level, the education system should take you. It is about the knowledge about your knowledge. So in other words, I can say the metacognitive component is your knowledge about your knowledge. It is talking about your knowledge about your performance, whether you are able to do these things or not. So friends, we have seen these two dimensions. One is your cognitive dimension, the other one is your knowledge dimension. Now we need to look at, so okay, you can fix these levels. You can fix these levels in any of these objectives, because objectives are meant for mastering the content. Okay, now we need to look at the type of questions that you are going to frame. The types of questions in general, I can always say there are major two types of questions. One is, we call it as convergent questions. The second one is, we call it as divergent questions. Okay, what is this convergent questions and what is this divergent questions? Convergent questions are questions where there is only one correct answer. Only one correct answer. So you are going to ask a question, there could be only one correct answer. Okay, there could be only one correct answer. So you say that the convergent questions are questions when India got independence. When I ask that way, we can always say that it is 15th August 1947. Okay, 15th August 1947. I am talking about the English calendar. So we can say that it is 15th August 1947. What is divergent question? Divergent questions are something which will promote analytical thinking. So therefore, it will be having multiple correct answers. Okay, therefore it will be having multiple correct answers. Okay. Now, let me share you a small example, and then with that example, we will quickly summarize. We asked a question to a student. Okay, who was the first Prime Minister of India? Okay, who was the first Prime Minister of India? So this was the question here. So we gave this question. Most of the students gave the answer like the answer is, it is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of India. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of India. One student gave an answer. The answer, even though it was, we all laughed at the answer, but the answer was found to be a correct one. A man was the first Prime Minister of India. Okay, not a woman. A man was the first Prime Minister of India. Some students went to that extent of saying the party man. Okay, a congressman was the first Prime Minister of India. Okay, a congressman was the first Prime Minister of India. The next answer is, a North Indian was the first Prime Minister of India, not a South Indian. So variety of answers. So all the answers are correct answers. So the question remains the same, but it fetches you multiple correct answers. These questions are called as divergent thinking questions. Okay, these questions are called as divergent thinking questions. So when you want to promote divergent thinking, you have to ask questions in such a way that where the students are able to give different correct answers. But in an outcome-based education scenario, in a classroom scenario, we need to ask maximum divergent questions and minimal convergent questions. For establishing mastery over the content, especially with respect to the fundamental components, we need to focus on convergent type questions. And with respect to the application type questions, we need to focus on these divergent type questions. Okay, we need to focus on the divergent type questions. So friends, let me summarize whatever we have discussed in today's uh, um, session, I mean afternoon session. So we discussed in detail the Bloom's taxonomy for designing questions. That was a topic, and we came to know what is the difference between objective and outcome. And objectives are mostly time oriented, whereas outcomes are not. Time is getting relaxed. Objectives are content centered, whereas the outcomes are context centered. And we use objectives to fulfill the outcomes, because for mastering the fundamental components, we need to go in for these objectives. And the objectives for classification, objectives level fixation is being done by revised Bloom's taxonomy. And especially in the revised Bloom's taxonomy, there are two dimensions. One is the cognitive dimension, the other one is the knowledge dimension. Under cognitive dimension, there are 6 levels. It starts with the remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And this knowledge dimension, it starts with factual knowledge. It goes up to conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive knowledge. And we have also had discussions related to the examples for each and every levels. And we came to know that there are different types of questions, and using these different types of questions, we can go in for this convergent type questions and divergent type questions. And we can also use objectives. Okay, like you can also use objectives. When I say state Ohm's law, what does it mean? It comes under stating Ohm's law is coming under remember level. Ohm's law is a conceptual knowledge, so therefore it comes under conceptual knowledge level. Now I can say the same, I can retain the same noun, but I can say explain Ohm's law. Okay, it is explain Ohm's law. What does it indicate? Now this explanation, it moves beyond the remember level, it goes up to understand level, and it goes up to conceptual knowledge level. And I want to derive the equation of Ohm's law. Okay, derive Ohm's law equation. I'm just giving you different examples how to frame questions and using objectives. So derive Ohm's law, derive understand level, and deriving this equation comes under this procedural knowledge component. So say the Ohm's law component is going to remain the same, but this Ohm's law, when I compare it to the verb, comes under conceptual knowledge. The Ohm's law, when I compare it with the same verb, comes under content knowledge, conceptual knowledge. When the Ohm's law is getting compared with the verb, here it comes under this procedural knowledge. Here it comes under this procedural knowledge. According to the level of the weightage, the performance that you are giving, the weightage that you are giving, this one carries a lower level weightage. Let us say I can give 1 marks. This one explain Ohm's law can be given around 3 points, and derive Ohm's law can be given around some 5 points. So because the performance varies, and depending on the performance only, you will be able to give weightage for the student community. So I hope, friends, I have done justice for the topic that I have been given. And now I hand over the platform to the coordinators. And before handing over the platform to the coordinators, I place on records my sincere thanks to the benign authorities of University for giving me an opportunity to deliver a lecture on Bloom's taxonomy and framing questions. And I also thank our benign director for permitting me to deliver a lecture before this august audience. And last but not the least, I should also thank the participants for their patient listening. But this being an online session, I'm not sure like how you might be busy with your own work also. But of course, my only thing is I'm unable to interact with you people because the system didn't permit me. But normally we used to have so much of interactions and other things. Anyhow, we have I have given sufficient inputs, and probably if you have any queries or doubts, you can unmute yourself and then ask me.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. It was really a very fruitful lecture for all of us. So audience, please, if you have any doubt, any queries. So just unmute yourself and ask the question directly.
So I hope so. There are no questions, and if that being the case, thank you, one and all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, coordinator and the team for arranging such a beautiful faculty development program. So I hope the FDP will be of great benefit to the participants who are attending this program. So over to the coordinators. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
So with this session 8 is now concluded. So we'll be back with session 9 at 3 p.m. sharp. So thank you all the audience for being connected with us. So we'll be back by 3 p.m.